All right, cool. Well, awesome. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I absolutely love Baroness, and
Awesome.
Purple has probably become my favorite Baroness album, which
Great.
is the first to feature you behind the kids. And
Yeah.
I love that your style of drumming, and it perfectly fits with the band. And it's an honor to be able to talk to you on your headlining tour here at the Caboose in Minneapolis with Pallbearer.
Right on.
So, how did this all come together with joining Baroness?
So my background is most like 90% of what I did musically was with a band called Trans Am, which was one of the first like post-rock instrumental bands from the late 90s. A little heavier than some of the other ones, less jazzy than say Tortoise, something like that. But anyway, so we toured and worked a lot, you know, for many years. But the other dudes, you know, got married, had kids, so we slowed down as a band. And that was happening at the same time, unfortunately, that Baroness had their accident. And so one of my oldest best friends is John Theodore. He and I grew up together in this, not as kids, but as, you know, we probably met when we were like 17. And so he was the drummer in the Mars Volta, and he and I are, you know, drum buddies. We've toured together in different bands many times. And when Alan left Baroness, John and Pete were like, you know, we could do the, you know, public audition thing, but they kind of didn't want to do that. They had been playing, I mean, Baroness had been around for whatever, 8 years or something at that point, so they knew a lot of musicians. They had been in the scene, so they figured, let's get somebody who is not some session guy. Let's get somebody who's been in a band that we like, who's been on the road, who maybe has some good musical ideas, you know? So the first guy they asked was John. He's got a little bit of a higher profile than I do. And John was like, I would love to do it, but I just got asked to join Queens of the Stone Age. So he said, why don't you call Seb from Trans Am? And John was like, I didn't know that he was available. And John was like, because the thing is, like, Trans Am's always been the same three guys, so people really associate, or used to at least associate me with only Trans Am. So John was like, I didn't realize that he did other things, or wanted to do other things, or could do other things. So John was like, yeah, they're not as busy anymore, give him a call. And then I think the story is that also John Baisley also called Braun from Mastodon to be like, he thinks this will be a good fit. And Braun was like, yeah, that would be awesome, definitely call him. So I got 2 thumbs up from 2 awesome dudes. So I'm pretty psyched about that. And then John called me. We talked for a long time, about 2 hours on the phone. Because John loves to talk. I mean, I do too, but so maybe it's the combination.
Yeah.
And then he was like, can you learn like 8 songs and come down next week? And I said, yeah, sure. Because I live in New York, John lives in Philly. So I went down, played with John, then played with John and Pete. And then it was basically like, yeah, so we're going to go on tour in a couple months. And I was like, okay, great. It was like, yeah, it was that easy.
Yeah. And that's awesome. I mean, being a fan of Trans Am as well, you know, it's like, it's awesome to see you taking a bit of a different approach with Baroness.
Yeah.
Was that an easy transition for you?
It was. I mean, learning. Alan's a great drummer, and there's a couple things that he does better than me, and a couple things I do better than him. So learning the stuff was kind of fun, kind of challenging. You know, we come from sort of different directions, but I feel like Alan and I kind of meet somewhere in this middle ground somehow. Like, he started out more as like a metal and punk drummer, was I started out more as like, I don't know what the hell, whatever Trans Am was doing, right? But Alan was always interested in doing more things that are, you know, maybe more post-rock or more experimental, right? And I was always interested in doing something heavier. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So we were like sort of like looking at the same place in opposite directions. So I mean, I don't think I had to really change too much in the way I play, because there are some heavy Trans Am numbers. That's so weird to say numbers.
Yeah.
Trans Am tracks
Oh, yeah.
that are pretty heavy. So that, and you know, being a band from Washington D.C., we definitely grew up listening to a lot of Bad Brains and Fugazi and things like that, which are very, you know, have hard-hitting drummers, and those are also influences on Baroness for sure.
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot in common there. So I didn't have to change too much. I had to play bigger drums, because I always played a 22-inch kick, and now I'm playing a 24-inch kick, and it took me like a couple of weeks to understand how the head bounces a little more slowly on a bigger drum, you know.
Oh yeah.
But it's all good now, and yeah, no, it was just like, it was just learning in other drummers' songs. I mean, you do that when you're just like having fun. Oh, I'm gonna learn this Judas Priest song, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's different when you have to learn like 8 songs, pretty damn close to the record to do basically what is an audition.
Oh yeah.
So that was a little. It was fun. It was challenging. I learned a couple of tricks that, you know, maybe I should have learned a while ago that Alan used. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, it was overall a fun experience, positive experience.
So do you keep it close to what he does, or do you add your own spin to it live? Or
I mean, I definitely add my own spin to it. I kept it closer before. Now I've realized, oh, I can do this, and it suits my style better, and it still works for the song. You know, sort of like as the tours have progressed, I've realized what from my toolkit works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's pretty close. I gotta say the ones from the previous records, not, I would say like 90%. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing about being a drummer. I mean, unless there's like very distinct fills like Iron Maiden or something like that, usually a drummer can have their fun and do their own fills as long as they're appropriate for the song.
Yeah, I do. There are a couple of fills in some songs where like they're like kind of like a hook of the song. So I do it the same way Alan did it.
Mm-hmm.
There's some fills where I'm like, this is not a hook. This is just like a literal like fill, like in the old sense of the word, like a fill in transition that you kind of don't really hear. I'll do whatever there.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a couple of breaks in some songs where it's like I play the fill like he does it, because it's like a moment in the song. You know what I mean? It's like a little drum moment that people expect. So that's got to be pretty spot on.
Oh sure, yeah. So you mentioned that you switched to a 24-inch bass drum.
Yeah.
Was there any other major changes in the setup as well?
The toms are bigger too. I'm using a 14-inch top rack and an 18-inch floor.
Nice.
And the rack is 14 by 14. It's
wow.
Massive. it's like as big as a jazz guy's floor tom.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And at first I was like, I actually chose those sizes. When I saw the drum, I was like, maybe I should have gone a little shallower. it's like insane. But the reason I chose it is because there's a bunch of moments. I call them bottom triplets. I don't know what they're actually called in real life. When you do a triplet between the 2 toms and the kick.
Oh yeah.
And if you do that with a tom that's, let's say, floor, rack, and kick, and if the rack is really small, that fill doesn't really meld as like a nice triplet sound. It just sounds kind of disjointed with this one bing sticking out, right? So that's why I wanted like a heavier floor rack tom. So those kind of fills really just like becomes like this weird like rumble, you know.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I did that. The thing is, in Trans Am, I was known for using lots of rototoms instead of rack toms. Instead of just any shelled toms. I don't know, normal toms. So So on Purple, on let's see, on Kerosene and on Desperation Burns, I used the rototoms instead of the normal toms. And my thing with that is that I haven't used that on tour yet because, like, sort of like conceptually, I like having. This is repetitive, but I like having a concept behind it, a kit, right? Like, this is like the rototom kit, like something like Terry Bozzio would have done in Missing Persons, right? So, and I kind of don't like kits that have every bell and whistle. I think it's kind of cheesy,
especially if you only use like one note in a song and you don't use it for the rest of the set.
Right. It's kind of cheesy. So that's why. But I have had a lot of calls on this tour. Fans have been like, come on, man, we want to hear the rotos on stage. So I'm like, okay, maybe I will try to figure out a way to have both. Because the other thing is, I'm not very good at reaching around a big kit. I like everything the snare is right here, and I like everything close to the snare, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not like, some guys are good at that. I'm not good at, I'm like leaning around right now.
Yeah.
For listeners' benefit. So I'm going to see if I can, for the next tour, fit the rotos in maybe with a hi-hat or something. Because when I use the rototom kit, I basically, the rototoms, they sit on those bars, right? So I have 2 where the rack tom is and 2 where the floor tom is. So it's like I have 4 rototoms in the space of 2 toms, and it's really easy to reach around, and you can be really fast going up and down.
Oh yeah.
But if I add them over the hi-hat or between the rack and floor, it's going to be a little trickier. But I'll have to experiment. So next tour, hopefully, will be some rototom action.
So I would imagine with those rototom parts that you'd just be doing that between the rack and the floor, then live, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is honestly not as fun.
Yeah.
Because also there's something that, I mean, there's something fun about hearing 3 or 4 tom notes descending as opposed to just 2.
Yeah.
I know it's like it sounds really indulgent, but it's kind of cool. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, it can be cool. I mean, having, especially with that bottom style, like going between the rack, the floor, the bass drum.
Yeah.
Those bottom triplets, like you talked about. I mean, that's awesome to see live, especially when you got that speed going behind it. But especially like being a drummer. I mean, again, like going back to Iron Maiden. I mean, like hearing all those drums, like 4 or 5 drums in a tom fill. I mean, those are always cool to see live and to hear.
Yeah, and he Nico is like, he always had a nice array of small high toms lined up there, which is kind of cool.
Oh yeah.
I feel like he's better at reaching around than I am. That sounds like a weird sexual comment.
So with having a 14x14 rack tom, was that hard to set up to have
it is a little hard to place and also because of the 24-inch kick. Because normally what I do is with a 22-inch kick and a shallow tom, I can put the tom on the snare stand and put the stem of the snare stand right up against the kick drum, and so the tom is sort of almost over the kick drum. And it's easier for me to reach. Now it's to one side of the rack tom. It's too big to go over the top.
Oh yeah.
So it is going from the rack. I'm lefty, so this is backwards for everybody else. But going from the rack to the floor, I have quite a lot of distance to cover now. But whatever.
Oh yeah.
You know.
I mean, like even in my kit, I have a 14x12 rack tom, and that's hard enough with a 22-inch kick.
Yeah.
So I mean, finding the sweet spot to be able to hit the rack tom and make it feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're getting it though.
Yeah. No, this kit's awesome. I've also done. So this is 4 drummers, right? So I can nerd out about other things.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm 6 feet tall, and I always used to sit really high, like most thrones were not high enough for me. I liked not having my thigh parallel, which is more standard, right?
Yeah.
And I've been toying with it, and now I'm sitting way lower on this tour with my thigh totally parallel, and I feel like it's working out pretty well for my footwork, except that I feel like it's a little harder on my shoulders, maybe, because I have to, reach higher now.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it's been a fun experiment, sitting a little lower.
Yeah, I actually started off kind of the same way as well. It's like I was a lot higher when I was sitting up at first.
Yeah.
And then I gradually started to get lower, and it felt very comfortable on the bass drum. And it took a while to get used to the cymbal placement, so I changed that up just a little bit.
Everything's lower down now.
Yeah.
I mean, when I used to play, like, I don't know if you've seen pictures of like Ringo Starr or something. He stands super high. Mm-hmm. I was like that.
Yeah. I
don't know. I just felt like arm-wise, everything was below me, and I could just like dominate the kit and reach everything really easily.
Yeah.
But I think it's easier to be faster with your feet if you're sitting lower.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's not always called for in Baroness, but you want to make sure that you can have that speed behind the feet as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a couple of like double stroke stuff going on with the kick drum.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely noticed that in purple going, and with the rototoms as well. Is because it wasn't until you said that you were using rototoms, I was trying to figure out what that was.
Yeah.
With the higher pitched toms.
It's only 2 songs.
Yeah.
But in those songs, it's all rotos. There's no actual toms.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about rototoms is that this is, I was talking about this with our sound guy Matt. Like, where do you mic a tom, right? Mm-hmm. Or a snare drum? You mic it close to the edge of the head. Mm-hmm. Why do you do that? Not because that's some like you put it there so the drummer doesn't hit the mic.
Yeah.
It's a total compromise.
Mm-hmm.
With a rototom, because there's no shell, you can put the mic right underneath the middle of the head, right where the stick hits, like an inch away from the head.
Yeah.
So it is an amazingly full sound when you mic them up. Acoustically, they're very weak, rototoms.
Yeah.
But when you put them through a PA, they sound insane.
Oh yeah.
So the biggest rototom I have is 14, but it sounds like a 16-inch floor tom because like you can tune them pretty low, and the mic is like right there in the sweet spot in the the meat of the head, and it's like kind of kind of awesome. I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's why that was so huge with like Terry Bozzio and Bill Bruford, and even newer, like with your stuff, and like Danny Carey went on tour with Tool with the Rototom kit.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Trans Am started in Washington D.C. and I don't know if you know Go-Go music.
I do.
Okay,
yes.
so you know they use Rototoms a lot.
Oh yes.
And that's one of the reasons why it was because they're so easy to find in DC. Every like pawn shop has a set of Rototoms because all the go-go bands use them.
Oh yeah.
So I think it was that, and also in the early days, Trans Am toured with remember Don Caballero?
Yes.
So Damon, my buddy Damon, great drummer, Damon Shea.
Absolutely.
He would use one or two Rotos too, and I was like, I remember the first time I saw him do that, I was like, dude, I'm totally stealing that from you. So.
That was actually one of the first bands that I noticed that was Don Caballero. Yeah, I remember when it was at the end of elementary, right around middle school. It's like I was really discovering instrumental music, and I found out about Don Caballero, and it's like, this guy's amazing on the drums, the way he's doing.
He's a beast.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
Going back to Baroness, was there anything that was written during the time of Purple that didn't make it on the album, or is there like any new ideas?
Oh, definitely. There's a whole bunch of stuff that didn't make it. We worked really hard on that record, and John is the primary songwriter, and he's a very hard worker.
Oh yes.
And he likes to be busy. It's what keeps him sane. I don't mean he's crazy. I'm just saying.
Of course.
Some people. A little bit like that too. I like to be busy, but he's even more so. So yeah, I mean, there's really only 9 tracks on the record. One of the tracks is just a little, little sound, whatever, sonic, whatever. My brain's not working right now. You know what I mean? Anyway, but so there was probably 5 other tracks that we started, and we were like, didn't totally complete because we were like, these are not quite as good, And it was funny because we worked on the album for maybe half a year, and I remember we were all sort of like, is this good? I'm not really sure, And then one day we arranged Kerosene, and then the next day we arranged If I Had to Wake Up, and then we were like, oh, actually this is going to be really good. I remember we just had this breakthrough moment where we were like, we know which songs are good and which ones are not. And let's continue working on these 7 other songs and not these 4 other songs. Yeah, so I mean we started thinking about new stuff, not too seriously because we've been touring a lot this year. But I've the way a lot of stuff starts is that I'll just come up with 6 different drum grooves. I'll record them maybe at home or in John's basement, and then he'll take them and edit some loops and start writing over it. He really needs to have a drum part for him to write riffs or chord progressions. He can't do it in just without the context, So we started doing that, but it's early days.
Oh yeah, definitely. And along with that, and I'm sorry for the terrible pun, but I'm shocked at how huge Shock Me has become. I mean, listening to the local radio rock station here that usually just plays the same songs.
Yeah.
I just heard the keyboards. Wait, is that That's Baroness.
So it's been on. That's awesome that it's on the actual it's
on the actual top 40 radio
that's
here.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry for the.
Oh no, that's all right.
That's fucking awesome.
No, be proud of it.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard some reports about that, but I'm not the best in keeping up with the business side of things, so I don't really pay attention sometimes when people are talking about that. But that's great to hear, and I mean, I think that's what we try to do nowadays in Baroness is to try to keep it interesting, keep it kind of heavy, but also make it music in the more day-to-day sense. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there are some parts that are a little more challenging and weird, but we also all appreciate hooks in the band. You know what I'm saying? And having a hook doesn't mean that you're making cheesy music.
Oh no.
So that's what I think that we're trying to do. Keep it intense, but make it make it memorable.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I appreciate the music from Red and Blue, but I mean, especially with Purple, I mean, having the hooks with the old school mentality of Baroness was just a great direction to go.
I mean,
in.
I think Purple it's more intense than Yellow and Green, you know, and in some ways even though it's a new rhythm section, it's kind of a return in some ways. It's not as, it's way more succinct than the early stuff. It's like not as like mathy as far as having like 13 parts in every song, like the older albums do.
Yeah.
But it is way more intense than Yellow and Green, and I forgot what my point was.
Well, no, I get it. It's just like the intensity and being able to write those catchy riffs and keeping the Baroness style going.
Yeah. No, it's cool because I think that John and Pete were really excited and anxious to make an album because their lives had been put on hold by the accident, and Nick and I were super pumped because we wanted to prove ourselves to John and Pete and to each other, and we were excited to. I mean, I was excited to work, you know, in a quote heavier context, you know. And that was super exciting and super fun.
When it comes to Purple, I mean, it just felt so natural.
Yeah.
The way that you're playing drums behind it, it sounds like you were there from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like when you listen to it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like try in the future? Like anything more you want to experiment with the band?
Oh, definitely. I mean, even on Purple, like for example, that halftime shuffle, the Purdy shuffle on Wake Up, is something that I toyed around with, but I never actually sat down to practice. I was never really that good at it. And then John and I were like, we should do a song with that kind of feel. I was like, okay, I'm gonna practice that. And that was kind of like I've never recorded a song with that kind of feel. So that was a new thing for me. So I'm kind of excited about that. So I'm sure something like that will happen again on the next album. I'm sure we'll be like, let's do something with this kind of feel, something maybe that I haven't quite nailed yet, and I'll, you know. I think that's kind of exciting and fun. You know?
Yeah, and that's the amazing thing in being in a band like Baroness is that it is so open to new ideas and creativity.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, I like the fact that when I joined, the friends would ask me, "What does Baroness sound like?" And I had a really hard time. Like I couldn't say like. I mean, it's not metal.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like. It's a rock band. It's definitely a rock band, but. I don't know, like beyond that, I don't know what the genre is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's like so many different elements, but I appreciate that because it's all cohesive to the sound.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not totally like random.
Yeah. And I can tell you guys aren't going to go out and make Purple 2 Electric Boogaloo after this. I mean, you guys are going to be...
That sounds pretty good, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would love that, and I think that'd be a great title to use, but I just know that the creativity is going to flow there, and I don't think that you guys are going to become stagnant at any point.
No. I mean, plus, I mean, Nick and I have only been on one record.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncharted territory there, you know what I mean?
Oh, very much so.
So, yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah.
We just have to decide if it's going to be another color or not.
I can see it
will be.
Yeah, I can imagine the internet rage if it's not a color.
Well, you know, honestly, we were not going to call it Purple.
Oh, really?
We were going to... John was like, you know what? This is like a new era of Baroness, new rhythm section. Maybe we should stop doing colors. And so for a while we were like emailing each other like album title ideas, and then we were all like, these all suck. So we're like, let's go back. The color thing is cool. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that because it does kind of have like this central theme behind it with like every color representing a different portion of the band.
Yeah, and also honestly, I think now in retrospect, I think having a new rhythm section, especially for a rock band, you know, that's kind of heavy, changing that is a huge deal.
Oh, yes.
And it is potentially a disaster, right? You know, as far as the fans go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Alan is a massive part of Baroness, right? So that's a risky move. So keeping the color thing is kind of like telling everybody, yes, half the band is new, but it's still Baroness. Everybody calm down. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's a good thing, you know? Like, this isn't going to be completely different, you know?
Yeah, I mean, again, you know, it's just like when I listen to Purple, which I waited till December to make my top albums of the year because I know it was coming out in December, which kind of threw me off because I'm so used to making it like in November, getting everything ready. So, all right, I got to wait till mid-December until Baroness comes out.
Yeah. Did it make the cut?
Made the top 10.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I just love the way that everything was going. And
cool.
And as much of a change as it is, I mean, it just felt like Baroness in 2015. I mean, it didn't...
I mean, honestly, like, I had spent, you know, the previous 2 years playing Alan's parts from the previous albums.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to inform the stuff I did for Purple.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So,
Yeah. And again, it's just like you mentioned, I mean, having half the band getting, or new members being, taking over the rhythm section with bass and drums, like you said, that could be a failure. And it also could make for a bigger success. And I gotta say, with just like with the direction everything's going, with the mainstream play, the tours that are coming up and everything, it's just getting bigger and better for you guys. And I'm so happy for it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been these recent tours this year have been really awesome. I gotta say, like, full rooms and everybody is psyched. I mean, we've had like Chicago, Chicago, DC, and New York were just, obviously there's more people in those cities, but the crowds were insane. You know, like mosh pits on a Sunday and but they're, but in nice theaters. It's a really nice combination. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's been really good.
And I'm glad to see that too. And it's just like, I like pretty much every fan of Baroness. We were just like wondering what was going to happen with the band. I mean, was it going to be over? Was it going to come back and not be as good? But I'm glad that it's come back, and you guys have put out the strongest album in Baroness's discography so far.
Well, thank you.
And I just imagine, just like getting all this touring under your belt for a few years now, and then with Purple coming out now, or back in December, but with all of that, I mean, just getting to work with each other that much, I can just tell the next album is just going to be even stronger.
Yeah, and it was like a really positive experience. Like recording the album was so smooth in the studio. I mean, I have to say we were very prepared. Like, we made 3 changes to the songs in the studio. Like, it was, we cut out maybe 2 parts.
Yeah.
But working with Dave Friedman's great. His studio is great. It was very smooth. It was really comfortable. He has this beautiful studio in upstate New York near Buffalo, and it was in the middle of winter. There was snow everywhere. It's in the woods. There was a comfy artist apartments, and a nice kitchen, and we would just get up and make breakfast and record all day, and and then watch movies at night. It was super. It was just very comfortable. It was a great way to work.
Oh yeah, and that's how it should be done too. I mean, when you're under that time pressure being in the studio, I mean, that can crack a lot of bands. I mean, some bands don't even make it out of the studio when they have that much pressure behind it. But being in that laxed environment, I mean, that makes for the best albums.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I said, we demoed all the songs to the point where John would send us remastered demos. He's like, I remastered this demo. I'm like, John, what are you doing? But the other things that what we did with Dave, which I would recommend to any band, normally when you're short for time and you have, let's say, 8 tracks to record, you'll get in there, you'll set up the drums, you get drum sounds, and then you do all the drums for the 8 songs with scratch guitar and bass. And it's incredibly stressful for the drummer. It's 2 days of just constant scrutiny and performance anxiety, right?
Oh yeah.
And then he's done, and everybody else. Then the bass player has to do it all, in a day or half a day, and everybody's just sitting around bored, and then so we didn't do that. What we did is we did the drums for 2 songs, and then the bass for those 2 songs, and then the rhythm guitar for those 2 songs, and then the next day do the drums for another 2 songs. So everybody was engaged. Everybody was paying attention.
Yeah.
And and nobody got bored. Nobody was under this amazing stress, you are as a drummer laying down the tracks. And then you know what it's like you lay down the drum tracks the first day, you've been in the studio for 5 days listening to them over and over again, and you realize, God damn it, I fucked up that part there, because it's you've heard it 30 times in a row.
Yeah.
And you start stressing out about it. You're like, can we do that again? They're like, no, we just you just overdubbed all the guitar solos, and you're like, God damn it, so it's way better doing it this way.